Good afternoon and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland. My name is Paul Harris and I'm president of the City Club's Board of Directors. I am very pleased to introduce today's speaker, Cuyahoga County Executive Ed FitzGerald, who today will give his fourth State of the County address and the first such address in Cleveland's new downtown convention center, this very impressive facility. The county our speaker serves spans 459.8 square miles and is the most populous county in Ohio. Mr. FitzGerald has endeavored to unite the municipalities that comprise the county on issues of common importance. His message at the county executive's website reinforces that objective. As he states, quote, "It's time to build one Cuyahoga County united towards building a trustworthy county government that strengthens our economy and delivers excellent services with unparalleled efficiency," end quote. By the way, a brief background on our very well-known speaker. He is the seventh of 8 children. He earned his undergraduate degree from The Ohio State University and his law degree from Cleveland Marshall College of Law, and thereafter was commissioned as a special agent with the FBI assigned to the Organized Crime Task Force in Chicago. He later returned to Cleveland, serving as a supervising assistant county prosecutor, a lawyer in private practice, and then as mayor of the city of Lakewood. In 2010, voters elected Mr. FitzGerald as the first executive under the county's new form of government authorized by voters in November of 2009. Under his leadership, the county's areas of focus have included economic development, early childhood education, and, as previously noted, greater collaboration among Cleveland and the 59 other communities that collectively comprise Cuyahoga County. Today, Mr. FitzGerald will expand on the city's accomplishments and challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. Now, after his remarks and brief announcements, we will have our traditional City Club question and answer period during which Mr. FitzGerald will take questions from the audience. Those questions may cover topics other than our beloved Cuyahoga County. And I will say the beauty of the City Club is that you never know what will happen during the Q&A period. Please welcome to the City Club of Cleveland, Cuyahoga County Executive Ed FitzGerald for his State of the County address.
Thanks, sir. Good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here for my fourth and final State of the County address. I want to thank the City Club, our esteemed citadel of free speech, for hosting this event again. I want to thank various dignitaries, too many to mention, but especially Mayor Frank Jackson, City Council President Kevin Kelly, all the suburban mayors and elected officials, and especially our county council for your attendance here. My wife Shannon is here, and 3 of our 4 children. Our oldest son, Jack, is away at college, but our 3 teenage kids are here today to listen to a detailed policy exposition about county government, and they are thrilled. You may not know it, but this lunch is the hottest ticket for teenagers. You may not know that. I'm looking forward to your questions from any of you except for my 3 teenagers. The answer is no to any question that they may ask. The changes in county government are reflected in how these State of the County addresses have changed and evolved through the years. A few years ago, whoever was serving as the president of the Board of County Commissioners would give a State of the County speech before a few score people at the traditional City Club auditorium. And now today, this speech is given before nearly 1,000 residents in a brand new convention center. But it's the content of the speeches that tell the real story about the path that we're on today. Taking over after the biggest corruption scandal in the history of the county, our priority in our first year was just to restore the public trust, which we accomplished by taking swift and decisive action. We enacted the toughest ethics rules in the history of the county, including mandatory ethics training for all employees and vendors. We established an Office of Inspector General. We eliminated patronage positions, required performance evaluations and accountability. We hired and promoted based on merit, and we managed this whole system based on data-driven management practices. And it worked. The pursuit of excellence replaced politics. Our payroll was reduced significantly, and millions of taxpayer dollars were saved as a result. The fiscal record we have established speaks to this. I signed into law an ordinance requiring that we maintain about 25% of our general fund operating budget in reserve, which is a very high bar in government finance standards. But a few weeks ago, we closed the books on fiscal 2013 with a total of $184 million in reserve, over 50% of our annual general fund operating expenditures. We're saving, for instance, over $50 million in operating expenditures just by consolidating our properties and constructing the first new county administration building in over 50 years. And we're revitalizing East 9th Street in Euclid at the same time. Now, all of those numbers may seem a little dry and boring to some, but if you don't have fiscal strength, if you don't streamline your operations, if you don't restore the public's trust in your system and assure them that it's honest and open, then you won't have either the resources or the public support to accomplish great things. Now, having met our first set of challenges, in our second year, we sought to define a long-term public policy framework. And we did that by creating something that we call the Western Reserve Plan. It's an outline of 12 policy principles. And that speech, given 2 years ago, provided a detailed roadmap. And that kind of speech ideally should only be given once in an administration. Subsequent speeches should chart our progress along that road, which is what I did last year and what I intend to do again this year. But if you think about it, giving speeches that just set out aspirations are really pretty easy to give. Greater Cleveland has had its share of speeches and plans, and talk is cheap. It's results that inspire confidence. The people of this county are not asking for a county government to do everything. They just want to know that we're making steady progress along the plan that we've defined. And that's what generates confidence. And that's what I can report to you today. Now, I'm not going to go through all 12 elements of the Western Reserve Plan, although our communication staff will be putting out information on that throughout the day. But let me summarize it simply in this way. As I have said before, in many ways, county government in the last few years has been a battleground between those who have given up on Cleveland and those who will never give up on Cleveland. Between those who think our greatest days are in the past and those who think that our greatest days are in the future. And I chose to give today's speech here for a reason. This facility, this incredible facility, is one of the physical examples of how we've turned the page and made real progress. One of our first tasks in office was to oversee the construction of this new convention center and the adjacent Global Center for Health Innovation. And the results are literally all around you. This facility was constructed months ahead of schedule and millions of dollars under budget, as was the attached Global Center. Just in the last 6 months, this facility has hosted more than 100 events and 150,000 visitors. The Global Center for Health Innovation is the only facility in the world that displays the future of health and healthcare innovation, technology, education, and commerce through 4 floors of state-of-the-art spaces, programs, and virtual offerings. Developing downtown, which was one of the 12 principles we set out, is not just good for the city of Cleveland. It's good for the whole region. The list of downtown projects that is happening right now is unlike anything that anyone in this room has seen in more than a generation. I wish I could blame it on a teleprompter, but These developments, which include not just this facility, but our new county administration building, the East Bank of the Flats project, the redesign of Public Square, the proposed lakefront development, the renovation and rebirth of the Ameritrust complex, and the improvements at Playhouse Square, just to name a few. But perhaps the greatest example of renewed confidence is the new Convention Center Hotel, which is going to be built really just a few yards from here. The largest hotel ever constructed in Cleveland, built and maintained by workers who earn a living wage, constructed literally on the remains of a county administration building that was a symbol of the old way of doing things. Ladies and gentlemen, timid communities, communities that lack confidence and drive and determination, just do not do these kinds of projects. But we do. And I should say, really, that we are doing them again. Because if you go back into our history, if you go back to 1936, in the depths of the Great Depression, this city had the guts to show not just Cleveland, but the whole world, through the Great Lakes Exposition, what we had to offer. And in the next few weeks, I'm going to be providing additional details about how we can do that again in 2016. Now, taken all together, these projects have created and are in the process of creating a downtown that we should be incredibly proud of, and we should show it on a national stage. And I'd like to share with you at this time a video that explains our downtown renaissance in a little bit greater detail.
I think we're in the midst of a once-in-a-generation time in Cleveland, if not more than once in a generation. Seeing cranes in the sky really is unbelievable how much is going on. What the county has really done over the past number of years is make a real commitment to economic development. Economic development is about growth. Economic development is about the future. And if you do it right, you do it strategically, it's about return on investment. A lot of the public dollars are bringing with them private dollars to the table. We've now finished the first major set of projects with the Convention Center, the Global Center, the casino, Flats, East Bank first phase, and now we're seeing a second big phase with that Ameritrust Tower, with the Flats, East Bank, what Playhouse Square is doing on the street, East Ohio building, and others. The county has also just been a terrific partner. They've been very easy to work with. We are so appreciative of the county being a huge participant in helping to make sure that the National Senior Games happen, that the Convention Center was open on time to showcase for those 25,000 people who came to town. We are now starting to regularly book business into Cleveland that would not have been here had that Convention Center not been built. And with the Convention Center Hotel, it is a game changer. We're already seeing the evidence that more people are traveling into town, they're spending their dollars, creating more taxes, creating more jobs. This kind of development creates enormous vibrancy. What's funny is you talk about most of those big things, I mean, the county has their thumbprint on nearly all of them, which is great.
Our efforts in support of development have not been limited just to the downtown area, it's important to note. Now, while the state was cutting back on help for local governments, we've been looking for ways to help local communities with their development needs. Now, just 2 weeks ago, we finalized a new program which will allow up to $80 million of county funds to be invested in local infrastructure projects. The collapse of the real estate market hurt local cities and school districts' ability to afford necessary capital improvements. And this new program takes just a portion of our investment portfolio and it reinvests it right here in our own communities. And 12 suburban communities have already applied for these funds. Now, 2 years ago, we marked housing as one of our 12 policy priorities. And although progress has been made, working with the land bank, local communities using state and federal funds, our economic recovery is still hobbled by the fact that we have thousands of properties which unfortunately are beyond salvaging through renovation. these properties are really dragging down the value of healthy properties. And they're also acting as a magnet for crime. Federal, state, and local funds have helped, but we do need to take more dramatic action, and we should do it this year. Last week, I directed my staff to find an additional $50 million in bonding capacity to fund the most sweeping effort to not just demolish, but to demolish, protect, and restore our neighborhoods. And the commitment that we made in our first year to create an economic development fund larger and more active than any other county in Ohio has been kept. Our $100 million Western Reserve Fund has been providing help to local businesses who are trying to expand their payrolls. And again, there were skeptics, but it is working. In the last 3 years, we have worked with local companies to create thousands of jobs and leverage over $80 million in private investment. And we approve those loans in a transparent process because we believe that if the public's money is involved, then the public has a right to know how it's being spent. Now, the businesses that we've partnered with have been located all over the county. And there is a video now to show a couple of projects that we're proud to have partnered with and helped make into a reality.
Hi, my name is John Catniece. This is my brother Jim Catniece, and we're the owners of Catniece Classic Seafoods. We're located in the Flats.
And we're the beneficiaries of the Western Reserve Fund, which is helping us grow our business. Since we began, we've made several different moves which helped us grow. We bought 3 stands at the West Side Market, which has been going very well for us, and then we bought a specialty foods company. The county loan is going to help us grow our business. We are in a situation where we're out of space where we're located right now. There was a space that came available, which is right across the street from us. It's a historic building. We were able to purchase that building.
We bought new trucks. We have 4 or 5 new trucks that we've been able to purchase.
We were able to fix the bulkhead, which enabled us to start unloading fishing boats, which was enabling us to create jobs, enable us to create revenues. The Western Reserve Fund has helped us immensely. It's given us the capital to grow, in which we're going to take that ball and run with it.
I'm Charles Swift. This is my brother Ned Swift. We are a second-generation company started in 1957.
That manufactures industrial filter and strainer elements for industrial applications, Department of Defense applications.
And you're sitting in our new building thanks to Cuyahoga County and the Western Reserve Fund.
Energy efficient, bright, light, great work environment for the employees, great atmosphere.
Very clean, spotless.
Great location. We're light, clean manufacturing.
The county loan was $1.26 million, 2% financing for 15 years, tied to 36 jobs that we're going to create over the 3-year period, which I don't think will be any problem for us. Since we've moved from the old building, our staffing has already increased about 14 or 15 people. It's amazing. We wanted to add people in the old facility and just didn't have the infrastructure to support any job growth.
The county, they're willing to be a good partner in it.
Absolutely.
And that's what we look for, frankly, is a partnership with the bank, with the county, with the city. I mean, we're all in this together, right? We're employing people, we're growing a company, and so taxes and finance rates are all very important to us, and that's what keeps us here in Cuyahoga County.
Now, we know that our efforts have borne some fruit, and you just heard about that. Our unemployment rate in this county is below the national average, and it's below the state average too. But we've also have to be mindful that the economic inequality, which seems to be growing every year, is not just remedied by economic growth. We must have economic justice as well. And the national dialogue about inequality is long overdue. And it isn't just rhetorical. It isn't just a political device or tactic. It's real. In this county, for instance, we have communities where the average life expectancy is 65 years of age. And we have communities where the average life expectancy is 85 years of age. Communities that are just a few miles apart from each other, but worlds apart in terms of even the most basic measurement of quality of life and life expectancy. That's one of the reasons that we've tried to keep our commitment to economic inclusion in our major projects. And we've begun a dialogue with community groups to do even more. It's one of the reasons that we're conducting the first economic disparity study in the history of the county. Because even though our county's unemployment rate is down, I know, and most of you know, that wages in this economy do not have the buying power that they used to. Too many families are living paycheck to paycheck. Many workers are working 2 or even 3 minimum wage jobs, and they still can't provide for their children. The sad fact of the matter is that you can have economic growth but not make real economic progress. But the good news is that you can have economic growth and economic justice at the same time if your policies encourage it. And in fact, you will make more economic progress if you pay all workers, regardless of race or gender, a decent living wage. And that's why we insist on it in our projects. We also understand that economic progress requires cooperation. That's why the promotion of regionalism was one of our 12 guiding policy priorities. We know that we're connected to each other economically, whether we want to admit it or whether we like it or not, we're connected to each other. We're not going to succeed at the expense of one another. This community took a huge step forward when every single city, all 59 cities, townships, villages in this county signed our business attraction and non-poaching agreement. The county is always going to stand ready to assist communities when they actually consider a merging with each other. But let's be clear about something. The larger community of Greater Cleveland is not just going to wake up one day and decide to become one large mega city. It's not going to happen that way. Regionalism in the near term is only likely to be expressed through shared services agreed to by individual communities, exercising the home rule powers that they have been guaranteed by the Ohio Constitution for more than a century. Sharing services can provide a foundation for saving money and providing superior services. And if it continues to progress, there will be the outline of a true metropolitan form of government, but only because we've provided a basis for trust and interdependence between communities. Now, along these lines, we have made a lot of progress, and I think it's been underreported. We recently completed an agreement with Mayor Cervenik from the city of Euclid to take over the operations of their jail. It's going to give us additional capacity, and it's going to save the city of Euclid over $500,000 a year. And in an even larger undertaking, Mayor Frank Jackson and I recently concluded a similar agreement whereby the county would assume the operations of the Cleveland jail. Now, that is a conversation. That particular conversation had been bouncing back between the city and the county for over 30 years. But Mayor Jackson and I got it done. And authorizing legislation is being submitted, or will be shortly, to both Cleveland City Council and Cuyahoga County Council. And if adopted, it will end up saving the city approximately $5 million per year. Now, that's not all that we're doing in this area. The county is now providing a whole array of services for local communities, just as we said we would 2 years ago, including health insurance, IT services, bridge inspections, HR administration, health and wellness programs, municipal planning, cooperative purchasing, public record preservation, sewer and road maintenance, and many, many more. Each year, methodically, we have done more for our local communities, and we've saved them money at the same time. And each year, we've created a more regional government, not by taking away the independence of those communities, but by a division of labor where each community can decide for themselves what they do best and leave the other services to the county. It's not as exciting as a merger in one fell swoop, but it has the distinct advantage of being real. Now, all of this progress is for naught if we can't enjoy it in a safe community. It's another one of our guiding policy principles. As many of you know, I spent 8 years of my life in law enforcement. And for many years, I believed that the county could play a greater role in coordinating and assisting local law enforcement. And I promised in my campaign for this office that the county would take more of a leadership role, and today the county is helping in ways that it never has before. And in particular, I can tell you that there were lessons that should have been learned after September 11th that were really clear for all to see, but we were not adjusting to them the way that we should have been. In 2003, some of you may remember, we had a power outage and a blackout in this community, and I can tell you the county had to scramble because of an inadequate emergency operations center, antiquated equipment, and radio systems that could not even talk to each other. For more than a decade, there were conversations about this. A lot of talk about fixing it and very little action. So in response to that, we wrote the county's first master plan for public safety. And we've been steadily implementing it ever since. We've worked with local communities to upgrade and consolidate 911 centers. We put millions of dollars into new radios for police officers and firefighters. We redesigned and professionalized our emergency response services. And this year, I'm very proud to announce that we are going to be breaking ground on a brand new state-of-the-art emergency operations center located in the city of Broadview Heights, represented by Mayor Sam Ally. We're also trying to empower residents to keep up to date about emergency situations as they unfold. Starting next month, we're launching something called the Ready Notify system. Residents of the county who want to receive text messages and emails about developing emergency systems, starting in March, can just go to readynotify.cuyahoga.us. And our emergency management agency staff will send you updates as events unfold. We also kept our promise to establish a community policing unit in our sheriff's office. And it has dramatically cut down on the number of outstanding felony warrants. They've cracked down on sex offenders and made over 1,000 arrests. Sheriff Bova, who is with us here today, has led our efforts with integrity and dedication. And it's only been possible because of a real partnership with local law enforcement, as this video is going to demonstrate.
In 2012, County Executive FitzGerald announced the impact unit to the community. I had the opportunity to stand on the steps here at Warrensley City Hall when he made that announcement. This ushered in a new day of interagency cooperation and partnerships. The impact unit is a group of highly trained deputies who are available to assist departments such as ours. It's reassuring to know that they are available just a phone call away to assist, whether it's undercover work or simply traffic enforcement. More recently, we have used them at some of our special events to augment our manpower, such as our summer festivals and our fireworks display. The county also brought in their SAVE event, which is the Strategies Against Violent Encounters, to our community. It taught our residents self-defense and some skills to feel safe in the community.
The goal is to teach people how to protect themselves and how to be aware of what's going on in their surroundings. But they taught us all the safety things to do to help ourselves. Let your mind look around you. It has helped because when you leave that program, you're confident. You know, you even have like a different walk. It's an excellent program, especially with the elderly. You know, we're sometimes afraid to come out after dark, you know, but I'm not. But everything about the program was excellent, very, very good. And the patience of the Sheriff Department is outstanding, outstanding.
That's funny. I want you to know that the woman in that video is part of my security detail now, so I feel safe. Law enforcement is a team sport, and we've worked to establish strong partnerships across the board. And the initiative we began regarding heroin use some months ago is a perfect example of that. Heroin is the most addictive and deadly substance on our streets, and we have got to rally all of our resources before it claims more lives. We've worked collaboratively with local hospitals, U.S. Attorney Steve Dettelbach and his staff, the Board of Health, local police departments, our medical examiner's office. All of us recognize just how dire this situation really is. The heroin problem is much different than what I saw as a prosecutor a decade ago. We lost nearly 200 people just in this county last year to heroin overdoses. Part of the county's initiative provided an antidote called naloxone that we think actually saved about 24 lives, but that is no comfort to the 200 families who lost a wife or a daughter or a son. Don't assume that you know who it's been affecting, because your assumptions about who is a heroin user are probably wrong. Heroin is affecting every community and every demographic. Last year, it killed more people than firearms in this community. And I really think that those who experiment and end up becoming addicted to heroin did not know what they were getting themselves into. But one thing that Prosecutor McGinney and Sheriff Bova and I agree on is that those drug dealers who sell heroin know exactly what they're doing. And they should face serious prison time because they know they're killing people. But we cannot just incarcerate our way out of the problem. We need a broad-based approach from all parts of our community. It's not a political issue, or it shouldn't be. It's a public health emergency, and we have to treat it as such. And I'd ask every single person here, and I'd ask the media that's assembled here to help us get the word out at every opportunity. Now, we just don't try to keep our residents safe. We also respond to human needs and the human condition. Human services programs have always been a major part of our mission and our budget for many, many years, and we've kept those commitments. But we've also tried to take the same spirit of entrepreneurship that we've used in public administration and in economic development and apply them to human services. It's essential that we don't just measure how much we spend on human service programs, but we have to measure whether they're actually improving lives. That's why we have become one of the only communities in the United States to have embraced what's called a pay-for-success strategy. Simply put, pay-for-success targets an early investment in a particularly effective social program, with the result being a net savings as a result of the effect of that intervention. It's called social impact bond financing, and we're using it to help stabilize families, for instance, who are facing homelessness, so that we can prevent children from being separated from their parents. Working with nonprofits like the Gun Foundation and others, we believe it's possible to save lives and improve lives and save money at the same time. And this whole strategy is so consistent with our focus on early intervention. It's why I recently convened more than 24 nonprofit and public agencies to coordinate our efforts on behalf of children. It's why in our last budget, we again, for the second time, increased funding for our Invest in Children program. And we're going to continue to look for ways to expand universal pre-kindergarten. Now, I believe that there should be more resources from the federal government and the state government for universal pre-kindergarten education and other early childhood interventions, but we cannot just wait for them to come to that realization. And in the meantime, we're going to do the best we can with the resources that we have. Now, as part of that, this year we became the first county in the United States to create a universal college savings account program, which establishes a savings account for every single child who starts kindergarten in Cuyahoga County, which they can then use for either, when they graduate from high school, for either vocational education or a college education. It's part of creating a culture here in Cuyahoga County that recognizes that a high school education isn't enough anymore. Our children have the potential to do so much more, as this video will explain.
I think this is an excellent initiative by Cuyahoga County. It really excites me because we'll be able to go online and I'll be able to sit down with Michael and look at his account and how he's saving, his balance, looking at how the account is growing with interest, really be able to teach him how to manage his money. He's excited. He'll tell me, this money is going into my account. My daughter and him are kind of competitive. He wants to save more money than her. I think that at age 5, if a kid is talking about college, it's going to be second nature. You're not going to really have to convince your child to go to college. They're going to want to.
I'm 5 and I'm going to college.
Cuyahoga County should definitely be proud of this initiative because it's amazing and it's really going to help and affect people's lives.
Now, as inspiring as I personally think that program is, in all the initiatives that were mentioned today, the accomplishment that I'm most proud of, and the one that I believe is going to have the greatest long-term benefit to this community, is that the driving motivation of this government is to keep striving for excellence in all of our fields of endeavor. When the memory of the scandals of the past has faded, that must remain. And it has resulted in so many achievements in these past few years, too many to mention in just one speech. But I'm going to try. Accomplishments like the establishment of a Consumer Affairs Department, which is already doing things like checking fuel quality to protect the rights of consumers in this county. A hotline number to report senior abuse or seek assistance for seniors. A veteran's ID card to streamline services for our military veterans. Construction of a new regional crime lab. Developing standardized policies and training for victims of sexual assault. A county health alliance that now has 22 of our communities working together on health and wellness issues. Convening public and private partners for the first time to work together to maintain, monitor, and improve the health of Lake Erie. Working with the Cleveland Foundation and others in support of building a clean and renewable and alternative energy industry right here, including wind power and geothermal. Eliminating a bureaucratic backlog of thousands of cases at the Board of Revision. Identifying millions of dollars in unclaimed funds so they can be returned to the taxpayers who are entitled to them, investing over $60 million in local infrastructure, while at the same time helping local communities save another $10 million in their own infrastructure costs, providing funds to clean up over 100 acres of contaminated property so that it can be redeveloped for the people once again, taking a coroner's office which was largely unaccredited and transforming it into a medical examiner's office, which is now the most accredited public forensic institution in the nation, working on a youth engagement process in partnership with IdeaStream and WVIZ, establishing a missing persons initiative and website, going to federal court to protect the voter rights of our residents, overhauling the entire IT structure of the county, saving millions by becoming a more paperless operation, including the e-filing of court cases, expanding our reentry programs to give formerly incarcerated individuals a chance to become productive members of our community again, helping to return veterans into placing them in renovated houses, honoring our veterans, and improving our neighborhoods simultaneously. The list goes on, and none of these things would be possible without a day in and day out dedication to continuous reform and improvement. Our team, and they have been an honor to work with, gets up every day and tries to make this whole enterprise work for the hardworking families of this county. Government at its worst is run by a small group of people for the benefit of a small group of people. This government has been run for you. I began with a belief that something better was possible for this county, and we will keep working towards that with every day that we have left. My hope for Cuyahoga County is that in the years to come, the argument between optimists and pessimists will end, because in my opinion, the argument has already been won. The next debate should be between those who have competing visions of greatness, not whether we're going to succeed, but how we expand our economy, promote early education, keep our communities safe, and create a more just society. I'm proud that we responded to the challenges of the moment, but I'm more proud that we lifted expectations, that we created a county government that can respond, which is governed by the principle of relentless self-evaluation and improvement. And that is what will allow our community to continue to respond to whatever challenges the future may have in store for us. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we are listening to the annual State of the County address by Ed FitzGerald. We'll return to him in a moment for a traditional Q&A period. Please start formulating your questions now and keep them as short and to the point as possible so we can get a lot of them in. And to ask a question, we'd ask that you form a line behind the two microphones here at the front of the room. We welcome all of you here and those listening to WCPN 90.3 FM, WCLV 104.9 FM, WTAM, or one of our many broadcast partners across the country. Our television broadcast partners are WVIZ, PBS, IdeaStream. Television broadcasts of the City Club are made possible by Cleveland State University and PNC, and our live webcast is supported by the University of Akron. We are very pleased to have as our presenting sponsor Medical Mutual. We've got several representatives of Medical Mutual here today, including CEO Rick Chiracosta and also Jared Cheney and Deborah Green. I think you're at different tables, but I'm going to ask you all to stand up and be recognized. Thank you very much for your support. Also, today's forum is the annual Stephen A. Minner Endowed Forum, made possible by a generous contribution from the member banks of the Cleveland Foundation in honor of Stephen Minner's retirement in July 2003. And joining us at the head table are several members of the Minner family. I'd ask you to stand and be recognized. Thank you very much. We'd also like to thank the many table sponsors, and you can check the program for a listing of all the sponsors today. And as promised, we're now going to return to our speaker for the Q&A. We welcome questions from everyone, members and guests alike. And first question, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. FitzGerald. Thank you for taking our questions.
Sure.
I have one about the division of authority between executive and council. And as such, I'm sure that that's the kind of question that your teenage children and children all over the county were eager to hear you respond to. I serve as a volunteer for the Citizens League of Greater Cleveland, and through that work, I've come to believe that there are some key issues in that area that may define how the charter balance is struck in the future. I also think that the layperson might also have come to the same conclusion I have. For example, we've seen the reports about council and whether they have the resources to serve as a check on executive authority, whether they have the proper staffing, whether they are properly compensated, whether they should be full-time employees or not. The other thing we saw was issue 3 on the ballot last fall, where council adjusted a recommendation from the Charter Review Commission and gave themselves more authority in the area of the Personnel Review Commission. I'm wondering if you see that as the opening salvo in what may be a long-running battle over the division of authority, or if you have any other comments on that issue that you might share. Thank you.
Not really. No, look, it's an excellent question, but I wouldn't characterize it as an opening salvo. This is a process. There are 11 strong, independent, intelligent people on county council. They have their own opinions, and they're entitled to them. And I have my own opinions, and I'm not shy about expressing them, and we're not going to agree on everything. And there will always be that tension between an executive branch and a legislative branch. The executive branch has to make sure that they don't take the legislative branch for granted on major policy issues, and they have to seek their approval for major changes in policy. The legislative branch has to resist the temptation to get involved in the day-to-day operations of administration. And that's always what the tension is where is that clear dividing line? And we're going to have disagreements, and that's fine. That's the way that the process is supposed to work. One of the reasons that there are, at times, differences and disagreements is those should be done publicly. not behind closed doors. That gives people more confidence. If a council or in future years any other legislative body were just to rubber stamp every proposal of an executive, they would lose the trust and respect of the people because they wouldn't believe that they were really performing their role in terms of a check and balance. I'll just say one more thing too. I'm very cognizant of this issue. I've been a council person before in Lakewood, and I was a mayor of Lakewood, so I've seen the dynamic before. I can tell you I was quite sensitive about it. When I came into office on the first day, there was a stack of contracts about half a foot thick that I personally had the sole executive authority to sign into law, worth millions and millions of dollars. And one of my very first decisions was, I said, I will not sign those. We don't want a system where we have unshackled, untrammeled executive authority. And so we set up a board of control and a contracts and purchasing board so that there's both transparency built into the system and also checks and balances. So it'll be an ongoing discussion, but I think it's been productive.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You spoke a lot about what the county, good things that the county is doing with the county money, and you've got some videos with people saying these great things that the county is doing with the county money to help them. And of course, the county money is really just the taxpayers' money, and it comes from taxpayers paying sales taxes and other fees. Cuyahoga County has the highest sales taxes and fees in the state, as far as I understand it. These are regressive taxes and fees. These taxes and fees hurt the people that could never afford to buy a ticket to an event like this. They are taxes and fees that help create the economic disparity and economic inequality that you spoke of. So instead of redistributing these tax dollars the way the county administration likes, why not decrease the sales taxes and reduce the fees and help the economically disadvantaged that way, instead of taking those fees and taxes and redistributing them the way this or any other administration thinks is better than those individuals might think?
No, look, I understand your perspective. If your perspective is that anytime the government collects a tax or spends money, that it's redistribution of the wealth, you're entitled to your opinion on that, but there are certain things that government should do. And as I look across the country, or if I look across the world at societies that have been successful, I don't think the most successful societies have been those where the government becomes a laissez-faire government that doesn't take a role in anything. And now, I think we should have a high bar. I think if we're going to spend taxpayer money, we should be able to justify it. And I think we have justified it. And if you look at the things that were outlined in those videos, I mean, I suppose we could have cut taxes and reduced the number of sheriff deputies, but I don't think that would have been a good bargain. I suppose that we could cut taxes and return some money to the taxpayers and not fund universal pre-kindergarten or early childhood education, but I think that would be a short-sighted view of the world. You know, the research shows, for instance, with early childhood education, that there's as much as a 7-to-1, some studies say a 17-to-1 return on the dollars that are spent. So I know there's a libertarian or laissez-faire philosophy that says that all taxation is wrong and all government spending is wrong, but there are certain services and programs that I think government should do to create a more equitable and successful society, and that's what the balance we try to strike.
We're not talking about reducing them and completely limiting them. We're talking about reducing them.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. The Cleveland School District has a very serious student attendance problem, and there's been many efforts made to try to improve it. I volunteered at United Way along with a number of other people to make phone calls, but most of the numbers that I had did not work. So my question is, has there been any conversation for the county to partner with the district to pay people to go to the homes of these students with the most serious attendance problems, because in many cases it's a social service issue where no way to clean clothes or whatever. So have there been any thoughts on using county dollars to hire people to go to the homes of children with the most serious attendance problems and asking parents and guardians, how can we help you get your child to school?
I don't know that we've talked about it with attendance in particular, but there are things that the county is doing now that is dealing with this whole issue of student performance. I mean, we don't run a school system, but we have social programs that are kind of treating and helping with the entire family unit, and that inevitably has crossover into the education field. We've also been supportive, for instance, of the MyCom program, which has been led mostly by the Cleveland Foundation, which is dealing with the whole issue of out-of-school time. I can tell you there are discussions going on right now between myself and some council members about if there's more that we can do to kind of close the achievement gap that exists right now. It is not just about standardized testing. It isn't just about administrative reforms. A child that is successful educationally is usually coming out of a family situation that is functional. And to ignore that, I think, is short-sighted. And I don't think the county can do all of that, but we're certainly interested in having that dialogue. I mentioned in my speech, and I know I was rattling off a lot of things, but we recently convened all of the major players when it comes to social services for children in our community, and I mean every single one. Every single foundation you can think of, every single public agency. And we just brought them around a table and said, are there ways to start aligning our human services? And those discussions have started, and they are going to start, and we're going to have a work product, I think, within a matter of months, and what you suggested would be an excellent addition to those discussions.
Mr. Executive.
Hi there.
Hi. I had occasion to ask you one day to whom I should direct a question about the Western Reserve Plan. And your answer was me. Not me, you. Next year you're going to be gone. How is that plan and the commendable impulse that it represents to think strategically about the county's role, as was manifest in your answer just a moment ago to that previous question, how is that whole endeavor being institutionalized? Because if you believe in relentless self-evaluation, as you just said, that's a tough one to institutionalize. How do you propose to do it?
Rick, that is the challenge. And that's why I said that although I think eventually the memories of the scandal will fade, we have to make sure that change in the way that we administer county government doesn't fade away. That's going to be the challenge. And I hope for the people that are running for county executive, they're asked that question. And I hope that the people in this room hold them accountable to that. And by the way, it doesn't mean that they have to take my 12 priorities and mimic them exactly. But the way we've tried to institutionalize it is that we didn't just set these up as big picture ideas that we talk about once a year. Our managers are held accountable for achieving goals that are consistent with each of those 12 principles. And we track all of it. And before the end of this year, you'll be able to pull up on our website all of our results. Sometimes we're going to fall down. Sometimes we're going to exceed our expectations. But that's what we have to start expecting from government. Let me tell you about a conversation I had yesterday, different topic but same principle, with Prosecutor Tim McGinney. Prosecutor McGinney, and this takes a lot of guts, has started to put crime information, very detailed crime mapping information, where you can pull up Cuyahoga County, you can see where the crimes are happening, what's being indicted, what's the resolution of the cases. All of that is being put into place. We've got to figure out a way in the 21st century to start transitioning from the idea that we're going to just elect people, turn the keys over to them, and trust them. And we learned what can happen in this county when that approach is taken. And we've got to, as citizens, adjust to a higher degree of responsibility where the information needs to be put out there, and then we need to hold our elected officials accountable. So it's not one person to go to the answer to that question. It's going to be, I hope, a community responsibility that everybody in this room can play at least a small part in.
Instead of making Lake Erie into a wind farm, Lake Erie should become a fish farm. Cuyahoga County sacrificed our river and our lake to make steel for America to win 2 world wars. Please make the United States pay us back by making Lake Erie and Cuyahoga County into a superfund and cleaning up our lake so we do not have to worry about the mercury content of our fish.
Okay. Look, your point is great. And I'll tell you one thing that I'm very proud of. So a few months ago, we convened, we manage the county with a process that we call county staff. It goes back to Rick's question. I mean, that's the way we try to measure our outcomes on an administrative level. But we started saying, let's start taking community challenges or assets and use that same data-driven approach to address certain other problems outside of county government. So we started something called Lake Stat, and it was our inaugural meeting. We brought all the stakeholders together, or at least I think most of the stakeholders together, to talk about what should be the performance measures in terms of maintaining the quality of our lake and improving the quality of our lake. And the reason that that's important to do is if you don't measure things, then they don't tend to improve. Everybody here should be able to go online and immediately say, is Lake Erie better than it was a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? And it's too difficult to do that right now. And if you start increasing the knowledge base, you're more likely to get, I think, smart public policy that comes out of it. Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we have been listening to the 2014 State of the County address by Cuyahoga County Executive Ed FitzGerald. Thank you very much, Mr. FitzGerald. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This forum is now adjourned.
For information on upcoming speakers or for podcasts of the City Club, go to cityclub.org.
PNC is proud to support the presentation of this City Club of Cleveland Friday Forum on WVIZ PBS.
Additional support comes from Cleveland State University.